So you have all different levels of, and we actually do need slower people, like me, because, we have a lot of kids that don't run that fast and won't ever run that fast. But that's not, it doesn't matter. That's what's cool about it. That doesn't matter how fast I finish the race. There is a limit. You have to finish it in 15 minutes or less, because we all wait to the finish line for everybody to come in. Nobody, even on practices, we don't go in, unless you have to go to the bathroom and you come back, we don't go in until everybody's done. And so if you're running a 15-minute mile and it's 10 miles, that's going to be a long time for everybody to wait. But we still will work with them. I mean, I don't know, that's something that when I walked into it, that was one of the rules that we had. And I ran with one of the kids that one season that busted that. I don't know what he finally finished, Angel finished at, but I know he did the half marathon. And I dropped back and ran with him to the end, and he still did it in much less than that, probably 13, 14 minutes.
And that's a kid. If you ever saw him, you would not think he was ever a runner. He's a heavy kid, and
yeah, he's probably carrying around an extra 100 pounds.
Yeah,
and
he's one of the members of our 500-mile club.
And he probably, if he came out, now when he comes across the finish line, he's always got a lot more energy than he thinks he had. He comes across the finish line, and I always joke, no, but I'll bet you wouldn't stand in his way because he looks like a center. But he's coming across that thing. If he hit you, you'd just be bam on the ground. But he's the sweetest kid in the world. I mean, he's just got a sweet heart. And he returned 3 times. And his story, what he told me was he had promised his grandfather, I don't know what their original agreement was, but he was going to come run. And his grandfather died first season, and he came back. He said, I'm going to keep my promise to my grandpa.
Huh, I didn't know that.
He told me that one day, so that was really cool.
Yeah, you never know what's going on with them either. But they'll tell you everything out there on the path,
And
I
that's
was
it.
running with one of my delinquent kids, well, not mine, but someone else's, but a delinquent kid in the program one time, and I was like, if you could just practice and take care of yourself, you would be one of the fastest kids in this program. And he goes, I know, I gotta stop smoking so much weed. I'm like, you realize I'm a probation officer, right? Would they ever say that in your office? Heck, no, they would never say it in your office.
But they learn to trust you,
Yeah.
because they realize you're just a human being,
You didn't
and
say
you want the
anything.
best for them. And you really do want the best for them. It's not trying to get them in trouble.
And so I don't know what professions you guys end up going into, but if you end up working in some kind of bureaucracy like I work in, you work for the state, or you work for a school system, one thing I want to encourage you to do, you do not have to function within the limits that they set for you. You can create your own programs, you can do different things. Don't ever be limited by, this is the way, the cookie cutter process that we use. And this program should be in every county in the state of Oklahoma. But our agency, my agency, Office of Juvenile Affairs, shows zero interest in this program. Even though they've never had to spend a dime on it, because we fundraise all the money, and we've got I think we're over 110 kids on probation. So we've got 110 kids on probation without OJ ever having to spend a dime on them. And we're not interested in it because A, how much work goes into it, and because B, a lot of times people have a hard time letting go of the idea of punishing kids.
Yeah. And adults, for that
Yeah.
matter. So we have prisons full of people, just overflowing. And then I think this whole idea could work in a lot of other areas too. But that's what I've always taught you guys. I hope you've heard it enough. Anybody that's been in my psychology classes, even my assignments, don't do the cookie cutter. If you have a better idea, let me know. You think creatively, because that's what's going to change things. And that's what I love about positive psychology, because it's not just raising people up to zero. Get them back to normal so they can go back to their poverty and drink their wine on Saturday night or whatever, or smoke their dope and not get in trouble. But how can you grow beyond that? And smoking dope is a lot harder if you are running. And you actually feel an experience of a high from the run itself, and it's so much better than drugs. Unfortunately, I know that. It is so much better, and if they experience that enough, they have a lot better chance of not wanting to go back to the old way, finding a new way. And they have relationships with people, and that's the other thing I was going to say about. I'm glad you're going to try to give the juvies juvenile kids, the ones in the system, more chance to get their siblings in first. That's what I'm assuming. But at the same time, those homeschool kids coming and joining in our community, and those kids that just want to run, that come and join the community, that creates a positive, that gives them a lot of role models for kids that had good upbringings. Basically they're being cared for, and those kids end up loving all the kids end up loving each other. It's like we were talking about that at the party.
But I would say there's no class system in Run the Streets. I would honestly
I can't even tell who's in juvenile
Yeah.
justice unless they tell me.
But even between, rich and poor and race, there's no cliques, there's no class systems. And it's probably the only program I've been involved in with kids where I can't see that.
Right.
Maybe I'm a little bit blind to it, maybe they're there, but it's not a cliquey program at all.
No.
Yeah, and when we left the finish line party, Jack is a kid that I have on probation that just got off, and he's a tough little nut, I'm telling you. He's like street. And the last thing I saw him do before I walked out of the finish line party was go over to Kayla Gerard, who's a homeschool girl, and just, as pure as a driven snow. And those two were hugging, and I'm like, where else would you ever see that,
It gives them a chance to be something other than what they're conditioned to be,
Yeah.
what they believe and what society believes they should be. And you guys know that I'm always preaching about this, about how the school system itself separates people out that way. And you're labeled for the rest of your life in that system. And
We've gone to the school system and asked it, if you will give us your kids that are kicked out of school and let them Run the Streets and put them back in school, we'll make slots for your kids that are kicked out of school, and the school system's never done that.
because once you're labeled, they don't see it. And there's really good people in the system itself.
Yeah.
It's just that the system does that to
Yeah.
them. It's like the bureaucracy you're talking about. Once that's established, the bureaucracy becomes paramount to anything else, to the humans inside of it. So you got to maintain the structure in order to. Otherwise, I might lose my job. I mean, what if we did this all over the place and they'd have to fire some juvenile officers?
Or make them run.
Make them run.
That's the other cool thing. I think there's 5 probation officers, 5 or 6 in our office, and all but one of our probation officers have been a mentor on the program. And the one that hasn't, her son has done the program.
And we have a judge that runs with at least one judge.
Yeah. So any questions at all? I know I rambled quite a bit.
What is the percentage of success of the program?
Okay, so that's a good question.
What was the question?
The percentage of success
Okay.
in the program. We look at success in several different ways, but this season we started out with 82 kids and 69 of them crossed the line. So 85% of the kids finished that program. And I always say, if you invited 82 kids to come 3 times a week and you're going to give them a cupcake, probably 85% of those kids would not be able to stick with that 3 times a week schedule just to come get their cupcake or a piece of pie or whatever. So for 85% of the kids, and the weather was horrible this winter, we ran on snow several times. So that's one measure, and the other measure is we measure recidivism, or in other words, kids who get reoffend within a year of finishing the program, and it's around 10 or 11% of those kids get in trouble again. And you're spending, the taxpayer state doesn't spend anything on it, but we spend about $300, $350, which is the cost of less than 3 days in detention. So for what you could spend on putting a kid in detention for 3 days, we can run them through this program and knock the recidivism rate at least in half of other programs and other systems.
Tell them the difference between a football program and this program.
Yeah,
That was something that stood out to me too.
Yeah, the difference between a traditional sports program and Run the Streets is in a traditional sports program, you've got a coach standing on the sidelines telling you what to do, and in Run the Streets, whoever's telling you what to do is running right beside you doing the exact same thing you're doing. They're not asking you to do anything that they're not doing themselves.
Plus, if let's say they did go out and get drunk one night and they didn't make it to a 7:30 run on Saturday, they're not kicked out. As long as they make up the 80% of their miles.
Yeah.
They can run the
attendance policies, and we have behavioral policies and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And that, the thing, even if kids do get back in trouble, the seed I hope we've always planted is, and you guys know this, to go for a run, what do you need?
Shoes.
Yeah. And what kid who can't get a pair of, shoes to run in. And so when you go to races, the big races, here's what you see. You see a bunch of people in their 30s and 40s and 50s running these races. Because those are people who got into life and are experiencing a lot of stress, and they're trying to find a way to dissipate that stress in a positive or healthy way. And so my hope for these kids always is that they may get away from running right after Run the Streets and maybe in their 20s or whatever, but someday when they're 30 years old and everything's gone bad for them and they've got job stress or whatever, that they're going to wake up one day and go, you know what, I need to go for a run. Because runners do that. I take months off and then I'm like, that's it, I got to do it. Today's the day, and I put on my shoes, and all you need is a pair of shoes to do this, to change your life.
And they're always part of our family. Once they're Run the Streets kid, they're welcome back to come and run with us anytime. And it's just it really is a family. Once you join, you're in.
Yeah, for $300 a kid.
Yeah, and they get their shoes. We give them the shoes, so it's
we buy Brooks shoes,
shirts,
nice shoes,
pants, everything they need. So, all right, let's give Bob.
I appreciate your attention. Last time I came to talk to one of Bill's classes, they weren't so attentive, and I thought, if that happens again, I'm not going back. So